Welcome to The Explainer. So glad you're here today. You know that feeling when someone walks into a room and just owns it? Not with loud ego or bravado, but with this quiet, unshakable certainty? Well, if you've ever wondered how they do that, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're breaking down the structural blueprint of highly confident people, looking specifically at the exact 7 habits they practice. We're pulling from a brilliant piece of source material that frames self-belief not as some lucky accident of birth, but as a completely constructed reality. So grab your mental hard hats, because we are about to examine the very foundations of human assurance. All right, here's our structural blueprint for today. First, the architecture of assurance. Second, defining true confidence. Third, the power of habits. And finally, a blueprint for assurance.
Let's jump straight into part 1, the architecture of assurance and how we actually build that foundation.
Let's look at the actual title of our source material. Excerpts from The Architecture of Assurance, 7 Habits of Highly Confident People. Now notice something really key there. It doesn't say the magic of assurance, right? Or the luck of confident people. It says architecture, and that word is huge. It implies a blueprint, raw materials, actual work. Unwavering confidence? It's an intentional construction project from the ground up. If we look at the definition, architecture is the complex or carefully designed structure of something. Honestly, what a brilliant lens to look at human behavior through. Confidence isn't just some random feeling that strikes out of nowhere. It's carefully designed, structurally built pillar by pillar. Highly confident people are basically acting as their own master architects. They aren't throwing up some flimsy tent of temporary self-esteem. They are laying down heavy steel beams, which sets us up perfectly to look at what those beams are actually made of. Moving right along to part 2. Defining true confidence, or as our source calls it, unwavering assurance. Now, what's super fascinating here is how assurance is fundamentally deep-rooted and structural. It is completely different from fragile, temporary arrogance. Our source defines assurance as a positive declaration intended to give confidence, a deep certainty in one's own abilities. Think about arrogance as a facade, like, slapping a fresh coat of paint on a house with a crumbling foundation. Assurance, on the other hand, that's a load-bearing wall. It's this internal declaration that gives you the structural integrity to withstand life's earthquakes. When you have that deep certainty in your abilities, you literally don't need to be the loudest person in the room. Your foundation does all the talking.
That brings us to part 3, the power of habits, those repeated human behaviors.
7. Our source pinpoints exactly 7 habits that form the literal bricks and mortar of this architecture. Confident people don't rely on random bursts of motivation. They rely on these specific, repeated behaviors. Let's run through them. Habit 1, setting firm boundaries to protect your time and energy. Habit 2 is practicing self-compassion instead of crushing perfectionism. Habit 3, continuous preparation and learning. Habit 4 is the big one, embracing constructive failure as a building block, not a setback. Habit 5 is active, empathetic listening. Realizing you don't always have to dominate the conversation. Habit 6 is taking decisive action instead of getting stuck in overthinking. And habit 7, celebrating the success of others without envy. These 7 habits create a super deliberate, repeating framework that you can actually manage and build upon.
And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast between the absolute permanence of structural repeated habits versus those temporary emotional highs that can just easily collapse. Look, habits are your repeated, structural, foundational actions. Every single time you practice one of those 7 behaviors, like holding firm on a boundary or actually embracing a failure, you're pouring another layer of solid concrete into your foundation of assurance. Fleeting moments, though, those are just temporary accidental boosts in self-esteem. I mean, we all get them, right? When someone compliments you or you catch a lucky break. And hey, those are great, but they're really just a fresh coat of paint. Soon as a bad storm rolls through, that paint washes away. The habits, however, those stay standing.
All right, let's bring it all together in part 4, a blueprint for assurance, building your personal architecture.
So here's a question for you. How are you building your own architecture? Take a second to really think about that. What structural pillars are you laying down right now in your day-to-day life? Are you acting as the architect of your own assurance? Actively practicing those habits like continuous learning and decisive action? Or are you kind of just hoping a sturdy house magically builds itself around you while you sleep? The absolute crucial takeaway from our source text is this: high confidence is an intentional construction project. Let's quickly recap our core blueprint themes. Assurance, that's your deep certainty. Architecture is your careful design. Those 7 specific habits we just walked through, those are your repeated actions. And confidence, well, that's just the end result. It's the finished building. You literally cannot have the confidence without first designing the architecture and repeating the exact habits that build the assurance. And honestly, it's such an incredibly empowering formula because it means true confidence is 100% within your control to build.
I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. What does your architecture of assurance look like? As you go about the rest of your day today, I challenge you to take a hard look at your routines, your self-talk, and your actions. Are they the 7 habits of a highly confident architect, meticulously building up a foundation of certainty? Or are they something else. The blueprint is entirely in your hands. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep building, and I'll catch you next time.